your number one hit station in town.
Hello everyone, Kira Schaefer here, and with me as always is Todd Schaefer.
Hello everyone.
So we want to talk about picking topics to write about. Now, when you write, it can be a part of your marketing strategy. Like if you're doing blog topics, or if you're doing podcast topics, or if you're doing any kind of topics really, but we're talking specifically around writing. So what I've learned along the way is that for the most part, when it comes to topics, most people either want to engage with the story, or they want to learn how to do something, or how not to do something, or how to stop doing something that's either stealing their time, their money, or a feeling or sense of love. And those are just three really common threads throughout most things. When we write our books, our compilation books with our amazing authors, we've worked with 160 authors so far. And wow. I know, it's pretty amazing.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. And those authors, for the most part, are offering a story of some kind, a connecting story. And then the other elements of our books are things like exercises, tools, journaling entries, that kind of thing. And depending upon the book. So we have a book coming out called Inspirations. And this book is all about stories, really deep, rich, amazing stories of personal experience. And inspiring people to, get out of the box and try new things and trust and that kind of stuff. And it's fast. Those are fast reads because there's 100 stories. So when you look at yourself and you look at what you want to write or what you want to contribute to the world, you may be a fantastic storyteller. You also may be a really great interviewer, where you want to hear about other people's stories. I feel like I'm more of an interviewer. I like to hear where somebody else has come from. I already know where I came from, so I don't really need to talk about that too much. So when you're picking a topic, you want to make it relatable, you want to make it real, you want to make it genuine and authentic, and you want to remember that you don't have to be perfect. And I think that that's a big roadblock for a lot of authors or new authors or aspiring authors, is that they feel like that it has to be perfect. Or the story, everyone has to get the story. Or it has to be so good. Like it has to be, Ernest Hemingway and Maya Angelou and like everyone wrapped into one beautiful thing. And the truth is that it's not really that way. You have to start somewhere. So, what topic would you feel the most drawn to talk about? So there's a couple of different ways to look at it. Is it a traumatic thing that happened to you? Is it a beautiful thing that happened to you? If you're doing the storytelling side of things, what has helped you or changed you in your life? Who has come into your life? And what was that thing that made you who you are today? And if you think about that, you can then incorporate the different things that matter to most people. So, as you're considering it, I would invite you to think of three things: the trauma, the positive experience, and then the what you learned. And then from there, you can kind of build a better idea of what you want your writing or what you want your blog or whatever to be about. What do you think about that, Todd?
I think it's great to start with the story. Sometimes, really, really great authors can weave their points into their story, but we deal with a lot of first-time authors or newbies to authoring or writing. So, I would say as a general rule of thumb, you can start off with a story and a good hook and a story, and then transition it into some like bullet pointed teaching, for example. So it's kind of like create a hook to get people interested, and then a little bit of your story, and then what are you teaching about because of your story? Like what did you learn, and how is it going to benefit the reader after that? If it's only story, well, then it may as well be a novel.
Right.
I mean, there sometimes there isn't much effort given in a story where the reader has to do all the work trying to figure it out how it applies to them.
Yeah.
All of our publishing books have been for the purpose of helping the reader to learn something, not just hear about your background. So a story is a very powerful tool, especially if you can make it relevant to the reader and teach them some things. So on that note, definitely write it down, get it all written down. Always separate your creativity and your editing process. You're not going to get it perfect the first time, more than likely. You might have to go through and say, okay, I wrote down everything for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, or to get 1,000 words or however much, and then you can go back in and read through it on a separate sitting, for example, recommended, and then pull out the statements or the paragraphs that are really relevant and really poignant, and even edit out and omit some of the paragraphs where it's just, there's not much in the reader. There's not much for the reader in this particular paragraph. I can omit that part of my story, and then replace it with something else that is good. So at the end of the day, you start with the creativity, you start with your background and stuff, and then later on, maybe in a different sitting, you go back in and you start engineering it and say, okay, now it's time for me to sift through here and figure out what's really good about what I said here, and is the reader getting something out of this? Yes or no? Is it relevant to the article, to the submission? Sometimes it may be, sometimes it may not be. And then at the end, sometimes this is great. After you've got it all done, then come up with your title.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're journaling almost to find out what you want to say, because you're giving yourself space to say it, and then going back and editing it and refining what it is you want to say, and then say, okay, I like that. You're giving yourself the chance to have a process to come up with a product, and then you title the product at the very end. And whatever that title is, it's going to be spot on to whatever you've written.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, you could come up with a title first and then try to write, because sometimes a good title idea can be inspiring to write the entire article, and it can work that way too. Right. I'm not saying it's wrong. Anything can work, but if you do kind of reverse engineer it, like I was saying, sometimes you can end up with a more poignant article and a more poignant title that's going to be really reflective of what the writing is. So that's kind of my take on it.
Right. That's good, because when we have our own books, so we did healer, life coach, in the alternatives, inspirations. So those, and When Angels Speak. So those books actually would just be 4 of them: Healer, Life Coach, The Alternatives, and When Angels Speak. Those are all 22 author books. And when we started, we start out with a book cover idea and a title. But that doesn't mean that we stick with those things, because after a while, after people start working on stuff, it's so cool, because we start getting all of these submissions in, and it starts to evolve in front of us, and it's really cool. So let yourself evolve, let yourself come up with a basic idea that has to do with something that means something to you. If you're talking about widgets but you don't care about widgets, it's going to come across in your writing. If you absolutely hate widgets, then that's great. Because that's going to come across in your writing. If you absolutely love widgets, it's going to come across in your writing. And so the main thing is that you want your audience to care to whatever degree you care. And then all the rest of it is just description and connecting the dots and making sure those dots are pretty clear for your audience. So whatever topic you like, and we have tons. Like, what do we have? We have personal development. We have spiritual principles. We have widgets. We have insurance sales. We have you could look up writing topics on Google, and you would be able to pick out a bunch of things.
Well, if you're submitting articles to the Inspirations book, anything that happened in your life can end up being an inspiring experience for you. Mm-hmm. So those could be stories to where you write a story down, or you overcame a struggle or experienced a challenge, for example, or just noticed something inspiring, and then you can talk about it and reflect on it and share with the readers what you've learned from that experience.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of versatility under the Inspirations book title, for one, mm-hmm. in terms of what you could write about. It could be literally anything, Yeah. Whereas the Life Coach book, which is already done and we've already launched, is a little bit more narrow, Yeah. I mean, it might be more about life coaching principles or how to help people, for example. Yeah. But the book you're writing for can have an impact on your titles too.
Right. So, all of this to say, honor yourself, honor your wisdom. You have a lot to say. Let yourself say it. Write it, speak it, do whatever it is you can do to get it out of you. Don't be perfectionistic about it. Let yourself be authentic and real, because that's the thing that people connect with. And what you're wanting to do here is help people connect with your voice, with your message, with what you're wanting to say. Don't write for the publisher. Don't write for your best friend. Just write because it feels good to you, and then everything else will fall into place. We have a book coming out soon called The Nudge by Felicia Shaviri, and it is awesome, and it is a lot of stories about spiritual nudges, bringing people to their understanding, their wisdom, but she tells you how she gets to it on her own, herself. And there's so many stories that I related to in that. And she's not telling me how to think, how to feel, how to be. She's just telling me her journey. And Eat, Pray, Love is very much that way as well. She's just telling you the journey. And if it's a journey that either you would go on or you wouldn't, it doesn't matter, because they're just being authentic and real. And Felicia does a really great job of telling those stories in that book, in The Nudge. So there's lots to this, but if your main takeaway here is just honoring yourself and knowing that what you have to say is important, then I feel like we've done our job in this podcast.
Yeah, some great strategies on how to come up with the title for your article, for sure. And even how to... Topic for your article, and even how to... a strategy for how to write to come up with your title.
Yeah. Very good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you again soon.
Bye. Thanks. Have you ever considered becoming a published author? Now you can. At As You Wish Publishing, we create collaborative books from authors and writers just like you who want to become published. Whether you are a new or seasoned author, you can become part of one of our collaborative books. Visit our website at asyouwishpublishing.com and see which open book projects we have for you today.